This week's parsha is the most important parsha in the entire Torah. You may ask, why is this week's parsha the most important in the entire Torah? Well, let me tell you. Parashah Teitzei has mitzvot, lots and lots of mitzvot, 74 mitzvot, more than any other parsha. We have laws of war and of firstborns, laws of rebellious children and of burial, sending away the mother bird and building protective fences, cross-dressing, rape, adultery, forbidden relationships, and divorce, levirate marriage, honest business dealings, and remembering Amalek. But none of that is why this is the most important parsha in the Torah. The reason this is the most important parsha is because it sets us on the right path for how to treat our brothers. Looking at Parsha Teitzei, several things jump off the page. First, as I said, we have lots of mitzvot, 74 of them. Second, these mitzvot seem fairly random, so much so that several Chumashim describe them as miscellaneous laws. But there's an even bigger problem. As we've talked about before, the book of Devarim is also called the Mishnah Torah, the retelling of the Torah. But looking at the 74 mitzvot in the parsha, very few of them seem to have been given before this week's parsha. How exactly is this a retelling of the Torah if this is the first time we're hearing about all these things? Rabbi Ari Kahn offers a fascinating idea that this parsha is a retelling of the book of Bereshit. Now that's going to take a little explaining, because there seems to be nothing in this week's parsha related to the book of Bereshit. But it's not that kind of a retelling, explains Rabbi Kahn. It's not a repetition of Bereshit, but it's a tikkun for Bereshit. The laws in this week's parsha are there to repair the book of Bereshit. Now, we read Bereshit 3/4 of a year ago, so let's remind ourselves what the book was about. Yes, it's the origin story of the Jewish people, but looking more closely at the narrative, we see a theme. Bereshit is all about dysfunctional relationships. Brothers hating brothers, children lying to their parents, spouses not properly communicating, and more. This week's parsha is also full of dysfunctional relationships, but brings down laws on how to navigate them in healthier ways. What am I talking about? Well, let's look at the second paragraph of the parsha, verse 15. If a man has two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they bear him sons, both the beloved and the hated, and the firstborn son is the hated ones, when he wills his property to his sons, he may not treat as firstborn the son of the loved one ahead of the son of the unloved one who is older. Okay, that seems reasonable, but why did it need to be presented in quite this way? Why not just say, the firstborn inherits a double portion? Why talk about a man with two wives, one hated and one loved? Well, where did we see exactly that situation playing out? Yaakov had two wives, one loved and one hated, and he favored the son of his loved wife, even though the son of the hated one was the firstborn. The parsha seems to be saying, I know how Yaakov behaved, but that's not how I want you to behave. And this is far from the only example. Let's look at the opening law of the parsha, what to do with a beautiful woman captured in war. Does that sound a little bit like a counterpoint to the story of Dinah? Then we have the laws of the rebellious son. Where did we see rebellious sons before? Esav, Yishmael. How about chapter 23? A man shall not lie with the wife of his father. Of course not. Does that even need to be said? Oh wait, didn't Reuven do exactly that? Chapter 22, verse 22, outlaws lying with a married woman. But didn't Avram almost cause two people to lie with Sarah? Chapter 23, verse 18, talks about not using the proceeds of harlotry. That sounds a little bit like the story of Yehuda and Tamar. Verse 22, when you make a vow to Hashem, you shall not be late in paying it. Who made a vow to Hashem and was criticized for not quickly paying it? Yaakov made a vow to Hashem on his way to Lavan's house and didn't fulfill it until Hashem reminded him about it decades later. Let's go to chapter 24, verse 7 for the most glaring example. If a man is found kidnapping a person of his brethren among the children of Israel and enslaves him and sells him. Not just kidnapping, but kidnapping and then selling into slavery. And not just anyone, but one of your brothers among the children of Israel. Can that be any more clear that it's alluding to the sale of Yosef? I can go on and on, but I think you get the point. Read the parsha with this lens and you'll see the same pattern over and over. But let me make the case one more time on a meta level. I'm fond of saying that the summary of the book of Bereshit is that it's a book about brothers, where the older brother hates the younger and are jealous of them. It's a book about how not to treat brothers. One word appears over and over in this week's parsha, achi, brother. The language used in the parsha doesn't talk about how to treat neighbors or countrymen or friends. It talks about how to treat brothers. Why brothers? Because the parsha is here as a tikkun towards the stories of the book of Bereshit. That is one reason why this is the most important parsha in the entire Torah. But the other reason is that the most important piece of Torah is whatever piece of Torah you have in front of you right now. Shabbat Shalom and Am Yisrael Chai.